Mia's letter. One second. Where are we? Mia's letter. Where am I? There I am. Where's Mia's letter? Okay, it's on the screen. Okay. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so they say, okay, the government respectfully submits this letter regarding the victim statements at sentencing, in addition to the victim impact statements submitted by the government in advance of sentencing. I think this is going to be long because I think Cassie's going to speak or not. I don't know. I hope Deontay speaks. I hope Chef Jordan finally speaks. That'll be powerful. I wish she had actually testified. They say the second story has held that while statutory victims have a right to speak at sentencing, there's no limit on who the district may permit to speak at sentencing. I wonder if that's just going to be. Mm-mm. As noted above, Mia's requested that the court provide her with the opportunity to be heard at sentencing. Although Mia is not a statutory victim of the defendant's offenses of conviction, she testified at length at trial about her abuse by Diddy during her employment from him from approximately 2009 to 2017. Mia's counsel has informed the government that if permitted to address the court, her statement will be approximately 5 minutes in length. For foregoing reasons, the government respectfully requests that Mia request to be heard at sentencing be granted. Now, here we go. So that's what it is. And when you hear that, you're like, this is pretty standard. You want to be heard. You want to talk. Okay. Got it. Nah, that was too much for Diddy. And that was too much for Diddy's team. Okay. Because the next thing that happened truly shocked me. This is some of the most unprofessional, bottom of the gutter, I would actually say demonic-ish I've ever heard. I get the fact that everybody's is impressed that Diddy's team got him off, but at what cost? Again, defense lawyers do God's work, but they're also the devil walking this earth. They're also Satan's little minions at times too. Not all defense attorneys, but defense attorneys. That's all I'm going to say about this. All right. So here we go with the defense thing. You guys just listen to this lowbrow, disrespectful, gutter shit that they put in front of a district of the second district court. Your Honor, we write in opposition to the government's September 30th letter motion requesting that a person with the false name Mia, first of all, these are lawyers. False name? Do you mean court-approved aliases? Aliases that you agreed to with the false name Mia? Again, they're trying to make a case that she's a liar. With the false name Mia speak at Mr. Combs' sentencing for charges of which she is not a statutory victim. Over defense objection, Mia was permitted to come into a courtroom. Over defense objection? Who the F are you? He didn't even want Cassie in the courtroom. Mia was permitted to come into a courtroom, assume a fake identity, complete with a made-up voice and demeanor. First of all, that's defamation. I would sue and lie about a defendant in a criminal case, all behind the shroud of anonymity. She lied that she had sexual contact with Sean Combs without her consent. She lied that she was a victim. Virtually everything that came out of her mouth was a lie. One of the great vestiges of the Enlightenment that once held sway over parts of Europe is trial by jury. And a jury of 12 people had little difficulty concluding that this person with a false identity, voice, and demeanor was lying. First of all, this is defamation. The jury never spoke on First of all, this false identity was given by the court. It's not a false identity. It's a pseudonym, and you know this. Second of all, voice and demeanor was lying. The jury never spoke out about that and acquitted Sean Combs of anything and everything related to her testimony. That is not true. They did not acquit him of anything and everything related to her testimony. But apparently she's not done. Now that the jury is gone and her lies will not be tested by cross-examination or evaluated by a fact finder, she wants to return to court, still beneath the shroud of anonymity, to lie again. Okay, so what are you encouraging people to dox, Mia? I'm confused at what you think. And also, this sounds like projection because now the jury is gone and Diddy's lies will not be tested by cross-examination or evaluated by a fact finder. Diddy now wants to speak. Simply, she's not a victim of anything. And to think that there are 3 women on that team, yo. And here's the thing, I get the right. I know, because it makes me sick sometimes too when people are like, support all women. Nah, because some women are assholes. Like, But the whole point of the matter is, it's a sad day. She had adult consensual sexual contact with Sean Combs on a handful of occasions, and as her many writings show, held him in the highest regard for years afterwards. That's right. Because people that are abused, they can't hold their abusers in high regard, right? People that are abused do not have a weird relationship and compartmentalization with how they feel about their abusers, correct? Yeah, right. Simply, she's not a victim of anything. How do we know this? The same way the jury knew. The jury never ruled on Mia because her testimony was blatantly incredible in every way, as was the testimony of so many of the government witnesses. Moreover, that she is so eager to return to court when she plainly does not have to and is not even entitled to, puts her proffered fear of testifying at trial into clear relief. This was a show for her. I feel like they're projecting. First of all, she does have a right, and she's eager to return to work because she thinks that you're a monster and wants you in jail. Anyway, but she also saw the consequences. Wait. This was a show for her. She got to lie. She got to testify with a false identity. She got to try out a fake voice for a jury of savvy New Yorkers. But she also saw the consequences of lying to a jury. They don't believe you. So now the jurors have returned to their lives and she can testify without scrutiny. She wants to come back still under a fake name, still with the false narrative to further sully the proceedings. And who signed this? Mark Ain't Shit Agnafilio, Tinny, you have no moral compass, Garagos, Alexander, where are your morals, Shapiro? Jason A., yeah, you know how to dissect the law, but ain't got no morals either, Driscoll. Brian, we already know what the deal's with Brian Still. Hey, a payday's a payday. Nicole, you are an excellent lawyer, but you should be ashamed of yourself, Westmoreland. And Xavier, one of the best lawyers, but also you should be ashamed of yourself, Donaldson. That's who signed this letter. Okay, so anyway, let's get to the government clapback because the government was the one that gave it back to them, saying, oh, no. You really, truly, honestly have things twisted. Okay, so let's get into the government's response. Because again, I know that like reading this, you're like, Tisa, what's the big deal? If you have been in court to actually say, and the fact that everything they're saying is basically what Diddy did and what he's doing now. But all right, let's get into this. Let's get into the prosecution's clapback, where they destroyed Diddy and his team. Dear Judge Submarinian, the government and you know what? These letters came out, pew, pew, pew. So you know they were sitting on ready. The government respectfully submits this letter in response to the defendant's opposition to Mia's request to speak at sentencing. The defendant's letter, which notably lacks a single legal citation, which is another thing. When you address the court, there should be a legal argument that you're making. No, it shouldn't be because legal, not I feel, I know, oh, they found. Not one legal citation did they give, which notably lacks a single legal citation, is offensive, unprofessional, and on its face, nothing more than a blatant attempt to smear a victim who bravely testified about years of traumatic events that she experienced at the defendant's hands. This rhetoric has no place in this court or during these civilized proceedings. They called them savages. Or during these civilized proceedings, the court should reject it entirely. More importantly, and this is the part about it that I don't know if Diddy's team gets, and I know Judge Submarinian doesn't have like a small ego. Like he's not a small petty man. But by writing that, they literally said, Judge, we think that you're stupid and you can't tell right from wrong. And if you listen to Mia, you're too dumb as a federal judge to know who's lying or not. Now, why do they think that? Well, I have my own suspicions because they were playing in the judge's face for the whole trial. And they, I think, thought Judge Submarinian was sweet because, like, sweet, like, soft chin, because he was very gracious with them. Instead of seeing him the fact of like, no, this man is very gracious. He wants a fair trial. He wants this, that. But at the end of the day, he saw to the extent that they were playing in his face. But they thought, it's like, yo, they think we got over in you. So of course, if you listen to Mia, because they think Judge Submarinian is a lick. They think Judge Submarinian, they can just like run all over. I think Judge Submarinian is going to put them in their place on sentencing. Nobody knows how much time Diddy's going to be, but I think it's laughable to even suggest that Diddy's going to get time served. Anyway, right? Even to the whole point of, I heard a few people said that like, oh, time served for just 2 cases of prostituting. And I'm like, is Diddy's PR team paying that many people off? Or is it like connections that people are hoping for? Because if you just pay an escort, I'm sorry, a hooker, and because Diddy was hiring hookers, not escorts, and you pay them, right? Here you go. This, that, wham, bam, thank you, sir. Right? Bam, bam, thank you, sir, slur. What do you say? Anyway, but not wham, bam. But the whole point is, if you pay them and they go, fine. It is against the law, but one could argue, was any crime committed? The fact that people are not understanding that paying a hooker to come and then leave, as opposed to paying a hooker to come, then brutally assaulting people during that, torturing people during that, forcing people to take drugs, brutally beating them so much that they OD, right? Well, giving them so many rounds that they OD and brutally beating them and still forcing them to perform. If you cannot see that there is such a thing called aggregating factors, and if you cannot see that, yes, this wasn't a clean cut, this wasn't a victimless crime, okay? There was a victim, there was violence. You would not want your sister to be in there. You would not want your brother to be in there. But the fact that they are still trying to make it seem like, oh, I can't believe really the U.S. government's going to send somebody for 10 years for prostitution? Yeah, guess what? In America, if you torture a prostitute, you're going to jail. If it's supposed to be a threesome and one of those people get brutally beat, you going to jail. Yes, in America, we do have something called aggregating issues. And the aggregating issues makes what you did. Again, if I just walk up to you and say, give me your wallet, and you give me, and you're like, no, I don't want to. And I'm like, you better give me your wallet, right? And I rob you, it's going to be a much lighter sentence than if I walk up to you with a machete, turn around, slice your throat, and then grab the wallet. It's going to be a much harsher sentence because of the aggregating factors. It's no longer what you did, it's how you did it that was so bad. Okay? It's not just that he was hiring prostitutes, it's how he did it, because the devil is in the details. Anyway, after the prosecution called Diddy's team savages, this rhetoric has no place in this court or during these civilized proceedings. They said Mia took the stand in this trial to testify for days about the defendant's treatment of her and those in his orbit. She was clear that testifying was something she did not want to do. In fact, she planned to die with the truth of what he had done. She got nothing out of testifying. And I think this is important to note. She got no money and she got no fame. Yet she did it anyway because it was the right thing to do. How difficult this experience was for her was apparent based on her demeanor in the courtroom, in which she often looked down and struggled to get words. That is not how someone lies. It is how someone speaks about the worst thing they've ever had to talk about in real life. That's another thing. Don't get me wrong. Okay. And let me just be real. Everybody on the outside is acting like Diddy's team was the last Perry Masons. Diddy's team was very good at jury selection, and they were very good at identifying that a lot of older women and men don't like women. And you can only be a victim if you're a woman if you've passed away. There was a lot of misogyny. Even the fact that they sat there and let Mark Agnifilio say that being brutally beat over and over and over again is a modern day love story. I've seen Mark Agnifilio's wife. Okay. I've listened to her talk to people in court. Mark would never. Probably because Mark just has a moral compass when it comes to the people he loves and would never lay a hand on his wife. But even if he thought to, Mark's wife, Mark would, he wouldn't. He wouldn't. He wouldn't. So the fact that people that would never allow this type of degeneracy into their lives, this type of degeneracy into around their loved ones are fine for it. The same people that claim to love the Black community, right? Oh, you're a Black man. They're the same people sitting there that are the same ones keeping up you guys are the generational curses in your family. Because I was thinking about this the other day where people like glorify, like, oh, in your mom's time or your grandmother's time or it wasn't like that. Until I realized it was always like that. But we've been encouraged. I can only speak to the Black community. I'm sure it happened. My friends in other communities tell me it happens in other communities. But there is something in every community where it's like, no, don't speak about, don't like, just keep it a secret. If something happens, you're the victim. It's your fault. You should have did something. Oh, he raped you? Why were you dressed like that? Oh, he touched you? What were you doing around those grown people? Oh, they robbed you? So who told you to be out walking that late at night? It's always the victim's fault. And when you want to talk about the people that hurt you, yo, be quiet. Why are you talking about this right now? This is making us look bad. Be quiet, be quiet. And it made me realize in olden times, things were, and when I say olden time, I mean our parents' generation, things weren't better. Everybody just encouraged us to stay quiet about it. But we didn't realize by staying quiet, that's part of the generational curse. Because every single time something happens, you think it's your fault and you're guilted into staying quiet. But if the person before you had talked, then you would know that it's that mofo doing it. And then you don't feel like you're going crazy. Because when that shit starts to happen again, you can be like, wait, I heard about you. No, 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 no. You have to talk for these curses to be, you see what I'm saying? Like, let's just put it in a thing of Diddy. Diddy did this shit to one person. Because they were shamed into staying quiet and victim blamed, they stayed quiet. So when he preyed on the next person, they couldn't see the game starting. See, the thing is, now that this has been bought out, even though it didn't have the impact that we wanted, now that people are speaking out on Diddy, the next woman that's sitting in front of Diddy, the next kid, whoever it is, they have ample notice. They know what this man's reputation is, and they can perceive precaution. And even if they do foolishly, because listen, there's a lot of people that were raised with a lack. And I'm not saying as a moral, I mean a lack of self-esteem, a lack of love. A lack. There has to be a wanting for you to let the devil come in and get in the middle. But my whole point is, even if someone does choose to walk down that road, it's going to make it so much easier for them to turn around and walk out the room. It's going to make it so much easier that if they do, God forbid, have to get justice, to get justice and be believed. Our grandmothers, our mothers, our great grandmothers, they weren't, oh, back then women were treated better because they knew. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. They were treated horribly. But because they kept their mouths shut, the generational curses kept repeating, repeating, and repeating. Breaking silence, whether people believe you or not, whether people cheer you or laugh at you, whether people want to be your best friend or whether they cast you as the devil. Speaking out is the only way that we will ever get this evilness off of this earth. And in that silence, that's what they want, because that's how it grows and gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay. Okay. So I say all that. There's another thing I say. The whole fact that everybody's acting like Diddy's team was Perry Mason, where basically they were just lucky enough to be blessed with a jury that just didn't get it. They didn't want to get it. They were laughing at the modern day love stories, even though they would never want to be in that one modern love story. But girls that look like Cassie, that's what they get, right? The whole point of the matter is the fact that people were saying, oh, yeah, they caught Bana in a lie, caught me in a lie. And I said, are y'all stupid? It's when someone is lying, they usually have that shit rehearsed. They've been practicing their lines. You're not going to knock them off of their thing. When someone's being truthful, that's when they're like, well, I kind of don't remember. Maybe. Hold on. Let me think about that. Those are truthful answers. And the fact that we have been so swayed from court TV and also like people in the media that we cannot tell when a normal person is telling the truth, because we lack so much empathy as a culture that even being truthful and honest must be practiced and performative, because we cannot even tell what authenticity looks like as a culture. It's very, very sad. Anyway, right? They said, da 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 da. They said, anyway, to suggest otherwise is offensive. Despite days of lengthy, often bullying cross examination in which defense counsel explicitly accused her of lying, Mia was crystal clear. I've never lied in this courtroom, and I never will lie in this courtroom. Everything I've said is true. Despite defense counsel's assertions, nothing in the jury's verdict expresses a view as to Mia's credibility. The jury was not asked to make any findings as to Mia's credibility regarding particular instances of Diddy's violence or abusive treatment of her or others. We cannot speculate as to why the jury acquitted in the RICO count. But as the defense counsel well knows, the jury could have believed every single thing Mia said about the defendant's violence toward her and others, some of which was corroborated by other testimony and evidence in the case, and still have acquitted for other reasons, such as finding that the enterprise was not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. To draw any factual inference about Mia's credibility based on a jury's acquittal is not only wrong, but it is not allowed under the law. They called out Diddy's team for breaking the law. They emphasized in U.S. v. Watts, all right, and also U.S. v. Martinez, Second Circuit holding in 2024. Holding court erred when it concluded at sentencing that the jury had necessarily rejected victims' testimony, explaining that a jury's acquittal of certain counts cannot serve as an independent basis for any factual inferences, much less by a preponderance of the evidence upon which the court may base its sentence. Again, morally bankrupt. They know what they're doing, but they're playing to the unwashed masses. They're playing to the people that just, there's a certain type of person, and this person is getting more and more power where their lack of empathy and cruelty is applauded. It's kind of like a I don't know what generation it is. I know it's in every generation, but we are crumbling as a whole because of people's lack of empathy and their pleasure at inflicting cruelty. It's odd. Anyway, they go on to say Mia was brave to testify at trial, and is even more brave to be willing to speak the truth to the sentencing after the verdict. She was by far not the only employee, friend, or person who testified as to the defendant's violence, vindictiveness, and cruelty. Nor is she the only one who has sought to come forward in connection with sentencing to do the same. The defense's fear of one victim speaking for less than 5 minutes speaks volumes as to what it believes may be the impact of her telling the truth. Thankfully, the decision about whether a victim can speak at sentencing is not left to her abuser.